Welcome into To Your Health. We loved it last week because last week we had Dr. Vamshi Balasetti with us, and we talked about actually how do you know when you're having a stroke or you think you might be having a stroke, and all of the things that you need to do, because he said time is of the essence. And we've got Dr. Balasetti back this week. I'm so pleased. We're going to talk this week about things that you can do to prevent having a stroke. The main things that we can do.
Mm-hmm. Thank you again. So, as you know, stroke is the fifth leading cause of mortality in the United States. And it's the leading cause of disability in the United States. If you look at globally, it's the second leading cause of mortality. And if you put in numbers, about 800,000 population is suffering from a stroke every year. So that you can understand the stroke burden. So it's very important to understand what are the risk factors that cause a stroke or put you at risk for having a stroke. And you can categorize them broadly into two, which is modifiable and non-modifiable risk factors.
Okay.
The non-modifiable risk factors are the ones where we cannot do much about that.
You can't change it. So
that is aging and sex. So, or gender, I mean. Usually the risk for stroke increases as you age, and for patients 80 years and above, that risk is about 14 to 15% per year. And so it slowly creeps up as you age. And when it comes to gender, men are at a higher risk for having a stroke, especially in the younger and middle-aged groups. And as they age, the risk is kind of equal, almost equal between men and women. And then we come to the modifiable risk factors, which is something that we can do and try to prevent the strokes. And the most common one among them is hypertension or high blood pressure.
okay.
And as you know, or according to the statistics, about 1/3 of the population that's about 20 years of age suffer from high blood pressure.
20 years old?
20 years and above, if you look at that population, about 1/3 of them suffer from high blood pressure.
Wow.
Yeah. And what's surprising or what's interesting is that only half of them are adequately treated.
Ooh.
And that's one of the major risk factors for having recurrent strokes.
What about obesity?
Yes, obesity, high cholesterol, diabetes are the other risk factors for strokes. And all of these work synergistically.
Right.
Obesity, diabetes, you're talking about insulin resistance. That in combination with uncontrolled high blood pressure leads to atherosclerotic disease, or in other words, hardening of the blood
Right.
vessels. It's the same pathophysiology, or the disease process is the same as you would see in the heart blockages. So that's the same disease process. It's affecting the blood vessels everywhere. And that is that in tandem or in conjunction would increase the risk for recurrent stroke.
So what are, let's say, 3 major things that we can do to prevent that, knowing that those are the risk factors?
Mm-hmm.
So what can I do? Let's say I have high blood pressure.
Mm-hmm. So I forgot to mention another one, which is also very important, is smoking.
Oh,
Smoking,
that goes without saying.
yeah, that is
Don't stop.
that is correct. And people who smoke are at twice the risk of having a stroke compared to somebody who does not.
Wow. Twice the risk. Are we listening?
And I'd like to mention this, since we are in the south, there is something called a stroke belt.
Yes.
If you look at the map.
Yes.
And that includes the southeastern United States. Consists of 11 states, out of which Alabama is one.
Right.
Mississippi, Tennessee, the Carolinas, all of them. This is a geographical disparity, and the risk of stroke is pretty high in this area. Could be related to the dietary habits, fried chicken, smoking,
all
yeah.
the fried, greasy,
Yes, all the soul food.
yeah, all the good stuff.
Yeah. So, in order to prevent strokes, as per the AHA or American Heart Association and American Stroke Association, recommend maintaining your blood pressure below 130/90. So the top number less than 130, the bottom number less than 90. For diabetes, there's something called as A1C, which is looking
Right.
at the blood sugar levels over time. And they recommend targeting a level below 7.
Thank you. That's a big help. Thank you so much. And don't forget, in order to do these things and to know about these things, go and get your physicals on a regular basis. And thank you so much for being with us. And we'll be back next week with more information.